Hey YouTube, if you like this video, just like and subscribe down here.
I'm here with my buddy Jason in the Traverse City Library. Jason is a designer who has a very similar name and job description as one of the personas I put together when I was originally working on it. Total coincidence. Big wink, because I think he's going to be a really good person to give feedback. And we worked together at Farm Logs, a startup, and he's also sort of similar to somebody I think who might use this product because you work in a remote team, right?
Yep.
And you're working with mostly other designers.
Yeah, I work in a small studio of 8 other designers. No engineers, so it's just a design shop. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm just gonna interview him a little bit and ask him some stuff about his work. I've told him a little bit about the project, but not a ton, because I wanted to drag him in and get him on video. Because we're, in case you haven't been watching the previous videos, we're trying to build a startup product live on YouTube. And so we kind of have a wireframe at this point, just so you're aware. And we'll show that in a little bit. We have an idea, and we're just trying to get 1 or 2 quick temperature takes from people before we dive all the way in.
Cool. And this is a product for designers.
Yeah, it's kind of for designers and other product building people. I guess engineers a little bit too. I guess I've told you that it's a way to help people run meetings, live meetings better. I think that's mostly all I've said.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
And I think what I want to do today is a little bit of a user interview, just talk about some of the problems that he might be dealing with or how things go for him when he's doing design work. And then kind of a usability test on what we have, but more of also a combination product test. Would this be something that would be useful for your team? And also maybe a semi-design critique, more than just usability,
Yeah.
copy ideas and flow ideas and stuff like that.
Cool.
So whatever you're feeling.
I love being on this end of it because
Yeah.
I run these too, and it's
I know.
I can't wait to let loose.
I'm doing it from a pro. I want to make sure it's.
Oh no, I'm not a pro at it, but yeah.
All right. So first, I just want to talk about the problem that we're trying to solve, right? Because we don't want to dive and go crazy on hey, is this button alignment good to go before we figure out what we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of given you a little bit of a hint about what we're working on, but just in the abstract, without the context of what we've said so far, tell me a little bit about how team collaboration is done in the early phases of a project when you guys are kicking off something new.
Ooh, we typically, every Tuesday we do a team workshop where anyone can bring what they're working on to the table. But when people are kicking off new projects, we typically schedule outside of that an hour workshop where we do whiteboarding. And as a remote employee, I don't really get to write on the whiteboard, but I can help throw out ideas.
So everybody else is local, on site.
I'm the only remote employee.
Yeah. And how does that work for you when you're in that meeting? Do they put you on a video call or something?
Yeah, I'll be on Google Hangouts.
Yeah. And what if you have an idea? What do you do?
Well, sometimes we do, it depends on what the exercise is. Sometimes we'll do set a timer for 10 minutes and I'll sketch
Yeah.
on our piece of paper and then post those in Slack and then put them up on the screen and discuss what we had sketched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said sometimes, it's not all the time.
Well, it depends on the exercise we do. So sometimes we'll sketch like that. Other times it'll just be a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have sometimes sketch brainstorm sessions and sometimes just talking about things.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other format for a workshop that you guys run when you're getting started?
I guess when I say we're just doing a conversation, it'll be whoever's leading the workshop will be at the whiteboard with the marker, and we'll all be brainstorming, and they'll be taking charge, putting out the ideas.
So it's kind of a lead person.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Which makes me feel like just another person in the room.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to write up there. But yeah.
So if somebody's facilitating that, it's less of a you know, and everybody's not at the same playing field, so you can just have a voice just like everybody else because they're just sitting in that chair.
Yeah.
What is like the rough design process you guys go through early on when you're starting a new project? Is there like a brief or like a kickoff meeting?
There's like a PM thing up front where I haven't kicked off a project in a while. I've been on the same project for 6 months. But there's like a discovery phase where, because we work with clients, it's different for me in the past where we were a product team.
Yeah.
We were like, we all kind of knew what we were doing, but now there's this whole phase of like prepping the clients for figuring out what their expectations are. And so there's a bit of back and forth there. We do the user story thing where we outline user stories. And that's been a super effective way to like align with the client on like what we're building and what we're not. You can quickly identify things that are out of scope. So yeah, process-wise, that's a key moment for us. Are you thinking more the design itself?
No, I'm thinking that's what I want to know. Like, so you meet with the client, talk about a bunch of ideas, try to get it down to like a prioritized list of stories.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Do you do any like brand, like, is there any other workshop work that you do around things like, less like the functional side of design? Like, do you do any branding workshops or any like journey mapping workshops that are a little higher level?
Yeah, we do, journey mapping is one of those things we do up front with a client.
Yeah.
So we'll do like, we use Whimsical. Sometimes it'll start on a whiteboard, but then we take it into Whimsical and do journey maps. And then sometimes I get sidetracked and I start doing more of a logic map of what the experience might look like. But yeah, that's a key step too, because you can show that to the client and get feedback on whether or not you're thinking about the life cycle the same way.
That's really interesting. I mean, so I'm using Whimsical for the wireframes. Did I tell you that? I forget if I told you that.
Oh no, I know we talked about Whimsical in the past, but what do you mean for the wireframe?
So like this, I wireframed into Whimsical and I'm exporting to InVision for prototyping.
Wireframed it in Whimsical?
Yeah, have you seen they have like a wireframe thing?
Oh, I didn't see
You'll
that.
see. It's kind of cool.
Sweet.
So when you guys doing like this journey map, you'll do like what is that meeting like when you're sort of getting all these post-its together? You're documenting that in Whimsical. Is that like a thing that you do to document the result of the meeting, or is it something you do to run the meeting?
Recently we actually did do a kickoff where the client didn't know exactly what they were building yet, so we did a user journey map on the whiteboard first, and the way we set it up, or on the far end of the whiteboard we put like what does success look like for the user, and then we kind of mapped a possible way to get there. So we used the journey as a way to run the meeting, but then after we went into Whimsical and like mapped it out, made it a little prettier, started thinking more about some of the details we didn't catch during the brainstorm. So then it became an artifact that we collaborated on.
What is the format of that meeting like? Is it just like a kind of a free-for-all, like, hey, we want to get this person to this result, like, see how it goes, everybody just sort of speak up, or is there also like more of a structured format?
It was pretty loose, but yeah, there was like, let me think. It was with the client, so it was 3 designers and the client.
Is that one person?
Yeah, in this case it was. And then, let me try to think. There were some other prompts we had that I'm forgetting now. Let me think, it was like, kind of trying to push the client to elaborate on like what the worst case scenario would be, what the best case scenario would be, so like, which kind of gives us some constraints around what we think the client is thinking for certain things, like get their temperature on what the problem space is.
Are those prompts sort of something you would use in many different meetings? Like, it's hard to imagine, but imagine you were working on the same project for the past 6 months. If you had 6 projects in 6 months, would those have been the same prompts, or were they really tailored to that client's use case?
I think they were the same prompts. I wish I could remember what they actually were. That would probably be really helpful to you.
It's actually more interesting that they're the same, I think. That's actually really useful. I'll tell you about it in a minute.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I want to get a lot better at, is like being able to run those workshops. because and like having a framework to do it, like I think there are a lot of prompts you could reuse in all different sorts of meetings that like just stimulate conversation. It's nice to have that toolbox of like exercises handy.
Is there anything else that you have that is sort of a toolbox for running workshops that helps you have those exercises handy right now?
Just personal notes, which I wish I could reference right now.
Do you what's the hardest part about like building that skill, that workshop running skill?
For me, it's just probably personal things.
Yeah.
Being an introvert, trying to like, you want the conversation to be productive, much as you probably want this conversation to be productive. But like, I don't want to lead the client into a dead end because I started thinking about myself way too much. So it's my situation is probably different from most, but
It's not. This is like
I want the conversation to be super productive and get to like I want like an aha moment to happen after every question I ask, but it's gonna it quickly turns into like, depends on the client, but usually they're open. If they're open to just kind of having an open-ended conversation, it goes better. So part of the challenge is setting the scene.
Yeah,
To be like, let's figure this out. Yeah.
totally. Well, I identify with that a lot because like being on video, this is like for introverted designer people, this is brutal, people. Like this is a little tough.
This is the worst. I'm sitting in a way I don't sit because
No.
I'm aware that I'm on video.
My face is red. It's tough. It's hard. I think that's kind of when I'm working on the project, just to like just pull the curtain a little bit, even if it's painful, just so that people can see what's going on, because nobody really talks about that.
Yeah. And for workshops in particular, that's something I've outlined as an area that I want to get better at. So it's like, it's tricky for me to describe my process about it right now, because it's like on my to-do list to like improve at. Right now I thrive more in the making,
Right.
rather than the facilitating. Yeah.
Totally. What would be your dream scenario if you like had a tool to help you improve in that area? No restrictions.
A tool to help with a workshop.
Yeah, to help you like get better at running workshops. You said, you have these prompts, you have these personal notes, it's a goal for you to sort of improve in this upfront area before the sort of the tactical design starts. If you were to have like a tool that would just magically be exactly what you needed to help you in that process, what would it do for you?
It would really be, I'd want the questions I need to ask laid out in a way that kind of guarantees a useful result. It's just something to reference, I think, and that might just come down to personal planning. There was an app I used at one point, forgot what it was called, DUCO maybe, but it was basically a design process in a box. It was a really simple app that just showed the different stages you should go through. Actually what it was is it was kind of a Google design sprint thing, but just like it was accessible. But if I'm leading a workshop, I just want questions available to me that I could grab from.
Yeah.
So that the client can see that I'm on a mission of some sort, and it's not like
Ooh, that's cool.
I'm a phenom who just like has all the right questions in my head, because I don't, and I don't like the pressure of having that. I'd rather, it could be as simple as note cards. Maybe it's just me needing to plan. I don't know. It would also be cool if there was if it was like a tree where like, depending on the outcome of certain exercises, you go down the path a different direction. In summary, I struggle most with the early stage of a project when the client, because this happened recently where they knew they wanted to build a product for small businesses, but they didn't know what that product was going to be.
Right.
It could be a Q&A platform, it could be a social network, it could be, like for example, the solution the thing they wanted was something that facilitates relationships between small businesses, and that could be anything. And when it's that open-ended at the beginning,
Yeah.
It's hard for, I want something concrete to hang on to, and if there's a tool that can help me ask the right questions in those moments, that would be super helpful to me.
This is really, really helpful. The past few minutes, there's so much you said. I want to go back quickly to something you mentioned a minute ago. You said there's something about a client seeing that I'm on a mission, needing to plan this. You don't want to sort of be perceived as like, you sort of do or don't want to be perceived as knowing it all. It sounded like, would it be helpful if there was like a shared understanding of the process that they can see? Is that what you're getting at?
That's exactly it, yeah.
Okay.
Because I put too much pressure on myself to like have my shit together,
Right.
and I don't want the pressure. And if we have a shared understanding between us, like, this is
Yeah.
what this workshop looks like,
Ooh.
it would help.
Okay.
And maybe this is a tool, or maybe this is me just needing to do some fundamental first steps on workshop best practices, but
What would you do if you were going to do this yourself? Like workshop best practices? Say you wanted to take the no card approach, as you mentioned. What would your first step be?
I'd love to, well, I do some research on best practices, just using Google or whatever. But I also like the idea of, sometimes the open whiteboard is intimidating to me. I'd almost like to have like the scaffolding on the whiteboard already. So I
Yeah.
can like fill in the blanks. Like, clearly there's a plan here you can see, because before you entered the room, I have these things up on the whiteboard. So there's a clear track that we're gonna go down.
Ooh. I'm liking this. This is good. You're gonna see when you see the thing. This is really, really.
I hope it's useful.
This is good. This is really good. I'm trying to like play interviewer a little bit, but I think authenticity is like a good goal for this. So I'm just gonna totally break the the science wall. I mean, basically. Oh man. Let me see if I have any other pressing. Okay. Before we just talk about the before we get into this designer mode, one more minute in interviewer, interviewee. Tell me about, okay, imagine you're running this process. You have some shared understanding with the client. They're putting stuff up on a whiteboard. You're running through it. What is the format of the process, or what is the format of the input you're going to be receiving from them? Is it text? Is it sketches? Is it single words? Is it long paragraphs? Is it some other complex data structure? Or give me an example.
Mostly words, like, unless they grab a marker and start whiteboarding, it's mostly like questions at the client and them just replying verbally in, paragraphs, open-ended thoughts.
Cool. What would you like hope to hear from a client after a session like that? Like, say you ran a great workshop, what would you think that they might say to you?
I want them to like be thankful that they're working with a creative team, because they're like, ideally they're like, this is awesome, I've never worked with designers like this before. I like the way you guys think about this stuff. Because that's what we're brought in for, is to, think creatively.
Totally.
And ideally get them thinking about solutions in a different way than they have been. If they're already cooking up ideas in their head, ideally we push the boundaries a little bit on what they had already been thinking. But in a systematic way. You don't want to be like the clever folks, just like coming up with clever ideas. Those guys are really clever.
You don't want to be that.
I don't think so. I think you want to show them that you have a concrete process in place.
So you're not worried that there would be some sort of like, oh, now we have to go through this whole process. Do you think that would be a really encouraging step for folks? They don't want to hire some creative genius who's going to bounce off the walls. They want to like know that like these people are experts. They know what they're doing. This is the process.
I guess it depends on the thing. Like the place I work now, we outsource branding stuff. We mostly just do product. So maybe if you're doing branding stuff, it would be a different story.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I'm like so excited by your answers that I'm like, I want to just tell you about what I'm thinking and get into it. What are we doing on time? It's been 20 minutes. I will probably ask you some more questions later, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But for now, I think we should just try to keep these pretty short and talk a little bit about the answers. I mean, so much of what you're saying is really, really good. Like, as all these interviews go, right, there's always like a affirming piece of it, and then there's pieces that are like a little slightly less affirming. And I think when we were talking a little bit, I was trying to get to like the part of your process that was really most relevant. This is like, by the way, me as like designer to designer, not like me as interviewer to interviewee, subject person. But some of the stuff you're talking about is so relevant, I think. Like a goal for personal growth and structure, wanting to have a shared understanding of the process. Really kind of was like crossing my fingers when I asked about data input. When you said mostly words, I was kind of like, good, because that's easy. That's pretty similar. But it does, I wonder, if what we're doing is sort of appropriate, the stages are appropriate for the process that you guys have. Like, I don't know if a user journey would make sense for something like this. This is kind of technically spoiling, the sterile boundary between like tester or subject matter and the user interviewer, but I'm just kind of talking out loud because that's the whole process that we're doing. So that's really exciting. I mean, I'm curious to see what you think of the actual work. Yeah, this has been really, really helpful. Cool. I mean, I have notes, but I'll also have this on video. So, all right.
Honestly, the little I know about what you're about to show me, I feel like, and because you mentioned it, like, that would be the most helpful thing for me is, or at least reduce the pressure I put on myself for a workshop, which is like, we have a thing we can reference. It's not just me with a clown hat on, like, ready to dance, ready to tap dance for you and work my magic. Like, I want to like put our stuff into a thing and we can work on it together. I don't know.
Okay, actually, let me ask you a point on that real quick. What is the result when you have that thing? Okay, so you work the magic, you have this stuff. How is that shared afterwards? What kind of format does that live in? I should have asked about that.
Yeah, that's always something I do at the end of, sometimes at any point in the process, I take a step back and like think about what the artifact is that I'm going to produce to send back to the client to make that next decision.
Yeah.
And it's always a deliberate step in the process. It's not like I know the outcome when I'm going into it. But I guess I like to think about what my goal is for a certain workshop, obviously, before starting it. But it's usually after the fact when I think about what the artifact I'm going to use afterwards. Like, is this going to be slides in a slide deck, or is this going to be a whimsical map that I can send back and ask them if this is how they're thinking about things?
It could be either of those, it sounds like, depending.
Yeah.
How have clients received those? Like, is there one that people tend to prefer? Is there one that you get more excited about or has been more successful?
I feel like the most productive conversations are filling up a Google Sheet with user stories, because suddenly, even just framing, as a user, whatever, just framing stuff like that suddenly makes flows or features or ideas feel way more concrete to them, and suddenly they feel like they get excited because they can sort of start to see their product come to life a little bit.
How do you prioritize those stories when you gather them up? Do you do that live in the workshop a little bit?
I'll organize them based on which user it is, but then it's working with the client to prioritize them. That's typically what I share those for, is so that they can be like, actually, we want to focus more on this. We don't need you to be looking at that fringe case right now, or whatever.
And those stories can be either listed in cards in a deck or, sort of call it out in some way on a journey map in Whimsical.
Mm-hmm. Or actually, just recently I did a user journey for 2 different user stories, and then so they overlap a little.
Right.
bit.
Well, this is interesting. I think the character I had sort of written for you and the personas that you'll see is like a participant in a meeting who is trying to contribute their voice as a designer. But I have a character named Becky, actually, who's running like a retrospective. And a lot of what you're saying is making me, so some things I'm thinking about, like one, I'm sort of questioning how I wrote those personas, because I think, designers are so upfront in that early stage of figuring out what's going on, and should be, that I don't know if a designer is the best. I feel like designers might be closer to a project or product manager or scrum master kicking something like that off. Maybe the participant is better phrased as a client or an engineer. I might shift your character around a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about, a lot of what you're talking about are things I'd want to have what I'm calling a facilitator. I really want to build and design a lot of copy around that to support them. Like, hey, you are going to be not just, there's an element of convenience that I think I've talked about, but I think like the idea of like growing and having this be like an anxiety reducing tool and also like making more progress with clients. That's something I don't have in here. So I could talk about this all day. We didn't really do a lot of prep for this, so I'm just, we're kind of catching up on the project where I left off. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. That's awesome. Okay, I'm excited. So super useful. I think we're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna set up my computer to do a screen recording, and then I'm gonna walk through the product, and we're gonna do this sort of pseudo usability test / design critique / product feedback discovery thing, and take it from there.
Cool.
I don't know why I think that's so funny. All right.
One thing I have to say up front, because I saw that this is called shuffleboard and it made me think of something, is when we're doing user testing at work, I used to just type everything into a Google Doc.
Mm-hmm.
So you're interviewing a user and you're typing all your notes into a Google Doc, and I'm also recording it and then rewatching that video afterwards, which takes like hours. I'll watch the video. Sometimes I'll take notes while I'm doing it, and then other times I will not take notes and I'll just record it, and then afterwards I'll spend an hour and a half just typing notes. And first thing is, I learned that you can actually just like pay somebody like $5 on the internet to transcribe your videos.
Wait, really?
But more importantly, something a coworker taught me is instead of typing in your notes into a Google Doc, you can just type your takeaways into an Asana card on an Asana board, which lets you quickly reorganize all those takeaways after the fact.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because then you're not constantly digging through a Google Doc, which I've done so many times in my life.
Yeah.
I just have these nice cards that I can drag to different columns, so I can name a column like usability, or a column like new idea. And then if I'm interviewing multiple users, I can, give them a color label, and you can see you have 10 things in this column. I don't know.
Yeah.
Easier to drag things around. I mentioned that because I see your things called shuffleboard, and to me that's shuffling in a board.
It's so relevant, and I was like, when we were talking about doing this interview, like you were saying that you just want to be like, make sure you're being useful and helpful, and like that's like this isn't, it's so helpful and relevant that you said that. Like you'll see, it's really, really helpful. Cool. It reminds me of sort of the initial impulse I had for this, because I was dealing with just like all the like extra documents and copying and pasting around design kickoff meetings, which was such a pain. Yeah. And that's, I think, where the shuffleboard name kind of came out of. And I'm actually wondering if this is really going to be as shuffly as I had originally intended it to be, because it's anyway. You're killing it.
I can't wait to see this.
But it also is not fair, because I'm interviewing my friend to do this, who also is a coworker and designer.
We worked together for 4 years, so
yeah,
our brains are kind of the same.
And we sometimes wear the same clothes too. So like this isn't, it's not like a scientifically, what's that like called when you don't have like good scientific, it's a little bit like a I've primed the pump, or there's something. I feel like there's a degree of like scientific validity you want to have for these. Sorry, YouTube. I'm going to do that. Sorry, YouTube. There's like a degree of like legitimate statistical significance you want for these usability tests. Mm-hmm. But also there's a degree that like it doesn't fucking matter, because you're trying to find your market. And for me, I'm building this for myself, which is like that's kind of cheating. But I think in this early stage, like I don't worry too much about my research having like the right person to, like I don't worry too much about making sure I'm getting like a bunch of equal samples from my market, because I don't even have a market, and I don't even know if this thing makes any sense.
That reminds me of sometimes, in the user testing, the real findings come out between your prepped questions, similar to when you're interviewing someone.
Yeah.
Like the real shit comes out when you're walking them to the car.
Yeah.
And they say something like,
You know what I really
"Person I
think?
don't want to work with." Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, or something, yeah.
It reminds me of like when I hear about people doing like scientific studies. It's like we had a bunch of undergraduates come into a room to do a bunch of math questions, but the first group of questions we put a bunch of marshmallows in the room when they were waiting, and like the whole study's about what happens in the waiting room before they think the study's happening.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's get going. I'm gonna hit the screen recording here. Let me turn off notifications. All right, hopefully it should be good. All right, so we're gonna have you walk through a thing. I'm just gonna say these even though you know them because I'm trying to document the process out loud. So usually I'd ask somebody to say like, hey, we're gonna walk through this usability test. In this case, it's sort of a pseudo usability test. Talk out loud as you go. We're obviously recording. We're not testing you, we're testing the application. I don't worry about that, you know all that.
Think out loud.
Yeah, and so like I said, usability issues, thinking out loud as you go, standard procedure for sure, but also designer thoughts
Okay.
and random ramblings would be extra welcome in this process.
Cool. This is great because I kind of, like, sometimes I'll do this with someone and they won't actually think out loud. And
Yeah.
now I know how painful it is once I try to dig back into my research. So yeah,
What are you thinking right now?
I'll try and give you more.
All right, cool. All right. Let's say that you are running a workshop and you're thinking that you want to solve this problem you articulated before. There's this sense of wanting to have more structure around what you're working on.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it at that, I think.
Okay, cool. So I have to run a workshop next week, and I'm a little rusty, so I'm trying to find a tool that'll help me. Really thinking out loud.
Leading the witness.
Okay, so I'm looking at Google right now. I've done my search. These are my results. This looks interesting because these are all Lorem Ipsum. So I'll just click into Shuffleboard here. Here it is, Shuffleboard. So I can tell it's a product because I see pricing up at the top here.
Mm-hmm.
I can log in or sign up. Collaboration superpowers. Shuffleboard makes running live brainstorm sessions very easy and shareable.
Typo. Brainstorm sessions.
Brainstorm sessions, easy and shareable. Okay.
You know what's bad about doing it this way is all these typos I've also made live on camera without knowing it.
Oh, and people are like, typo dude.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay, try it for yourself. Free trial, no credit card required. That's cool.
So what's your first impression?
So, honestly, reading that subheadline makes it, like, it piqued my interest in real life because as a remote employee, like, this could be for me.
Dope.
Makes brainstorm sessions easy and shareable. Cool. Shareable to me, yeah, it makes me think of InVision, like, I can drop somebody a link and we can all just get on the same page quick.
Very cool.
This, I'm assuming, is like a quick overview video.
A little
Wonder
video.
if I'd click it.
What do you think?
I probably would click it eventually, but I think I tend to like scroll down and look for screenshots first, which it looks like,
Yeah.
you have that.
I have a theory that like people either are video watchers or readers, and you just have to have the same content one on top of the other a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not a video watcher, but if I'm really interested in the product, I might scroll back up and hit it.
Yeah. All right, cool.
But yeah. Shuffleboard makes brainstorming with your coworkers a breeze. Run engaging collaborative meetings in real time. Places missing whiteboard post-its. Honestly, my first scroll, I honestly might just read the headlines of these.
Yeah.
Best parts of paper and markers, none of the hassle. Start a meeting with one click, no prep necessary. Works in person or with remote teams. Broadcast your results. Cool. So what are my questions about the product right now?
Yeah.
I guess now is when I would scroll back up to the video and watch it probably.
Okay.
just so I can get it. Or these images would help too once they're in there. It's just to get a sense of. I like to just glance at the UI, just because I use so many products. I can get a pretty good idea of what the product does just based on what the UI looks like.
Totally.
But I have an idea of what this might be, mostly just because of the name right now and the brief nuggets you've given me.
Yeah.
Shuffleboard. I love a board. I love Trello. I love Asana board view. I love a board.
Love a good board. What else? What else does shuffleboard as a name invoke for you?
Old Italians in Pittsburgh. Like I
I should call it bocce ball.
yeah.
Yeah, that's got. I'm thinking cruise ships sometimes. Is that a fun image or not a fun image?
No, I was just making a joke. Shuffleboard. Actually, no, I'm thinking of real shuffleboard. Yeah.
I mean, that might be a confusing thing to think of like real shuffleboard. Let me ask you this: did you get it that it was like a board? I guess you did.
I did, just because board products are such a piece of design work.
Yeah.
Like I use so many products that are boards.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's positive. What about shuffle? What is shuffle?
Shuffle.
Spark.
Honestly, what it sparks for me right now, partly because maybe I'm trying to like figure out what the product might be, is like literally shuffling a deck and like here's a prompt. You shuffle a deck, here's a prompt.
Oh yeah, like a random prompt.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. What would you imagine the product is right now before you click in? I'm kind of curious.
I'm thinking of sticky notes and putting them and grouping them in relevant columns and stuff, like other boards, how other boards work. I'd probably read these sub-headlines. It supports real-time discussion. It doesn't replace it. Easy sharing. Make sure everyone is heard. That's awesome, because that's one of the struggles I have as a remote employee is like, especially for me as like an introvert, on the only person on Google Hangouts, I really don't want to interrupt.
Yeah.
This is why I love InVision comments too, is because I can like take my time and think and then submit. I'm not as good like on the fly, but also I don't want to be the guy on Google Hangouts who suddenly starts talking, and not only am I talking over someone, but like who knows what their audio is set at, and suddenly I'm just screaming. So this is appealing to me. The fact that it making sure everyone is heard is awesome, because knowing that it's also a collaborative tool, I know that it probably helps limit groupthink, which is something that'll happen when you're all in the room together, is like people just jump on another person's ideas, but in a subconscious way, just reading that is appealing to me. As far as the minor copy feedback goes. Shows who's distracted so your attendees pay attention. Ooh, interesting. So I've tabbed over to New York Times and I'm reading, here's what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah.
I'm reading something on a website. You can tell I'm not focused on that browser window, and you can see that Jason's not paying attention.
It is, as a participant, how does that feel? A little scary? Not positive, maybe, or maybe positive.
It depends on what kind of team you're on. Like, if you have like a candid team and you see that someone's distracted, you can be like, dude, you're distracted right now. And it, like on my team, it would be fine. It would work.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a corporate Zoom call and somebody's got the distracted icon next to their avatar. It's like, this fucking guy.
I honestly
like the idea.
I had thought of that as an idea that it might help people, especially in meetings, not want to pick up their computer and, participate, have their screens open too much. And it hadn't even occurred to me that like that could be a really scary thing for a remote employee to see, like, oh, this is going to shame me in front of all the non-remote people. This is why we have these conversations, for sure.
Yeah.
I have to figure out how to make that work. At least like have a way to turn it off for meetings if
Shows you distracted. So, okay. Broadcast results. Meetings and shuffleboard are always saved and easily shared, so you never lose a good idea and everyone's always in the loop. That's cool. I kind of take that for granted with a web tool like this, like, or I don't take it for granted. I just kind of expect that to be the case. I would hope.
Yeah, it shouldn't. That's a really good point.
Or maybe it's because I don't really know what a meeting is yet.
Yeah.
So I don't quite know how to think about that. But once the content's more filled in, I guess I would get that.
If I'm thinking about the conversation we had before, I think this is like table stakes, best parts and markers and the hassle. Oh, I mean, you didn't really talk a ton about using paper tools. You talked about other digital tools, so that makes me want to de-emphasize this potentially. The ease and convenience was sort of targeted at Becky type, which is not super targeted to you. This seems like a really important thing to you, that works in person. Broadcaster results, maybe not so much, but what I want to add based off our conversation is like, simply run better workshops without having to stress about how they're set up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I feel. I feel like I'm missing now after our combo. That's just what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'm also a little confused by broadcaster results. And then it says that meetings are always saved. It almost feels like...
Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah. I guess easily shared is the piece of it, yeah.
Totally. Very cool. Well, what do you think you would do next?
I'd probably give it the old try it out.
Alright, let's do it.
Here I am, shuffleboard login. Try it for yourself. First thought is, there's part of me that will bail because I don't want to sign up or sign in yet. I want to just try this without logging in. Part of me is like that. But also, I'm the type of person who doesn't care too much about my Google login. Like, I've talked to people who, like, they don't want to sign in with their Google login, but the fact that I could, I'd probably breeze right in with my, especially if it's my work account. Sometimes I use that as, like, my work account I'll test out stuff with.
Yeah, totally.
So...
Do you think you would be more inclined to do it if you saw the product in that video?
Yeah, probably. If I knew what I was getting into, yeah.
What other ways do you think you would feel comfortable knowing what you're getting into, besides the video? Were you expecting maybe like sign up without creating an account, or?
Yeah, maybe what it is I think you probably hit the nail on the head. If I saw what the product looked like and kind of was, I'd be more inclined to like just sign up and give it a try. But because I haven't seen it yet, I kind of I was expecting a demo right here.
Oh, that makes sense. What if there was a thing at the top that said like features or product next to pricing? Would that have enticed you? Would you have clicked that instead?
Oh, I don't know if I'd click it because I don't know. This kind of felt like a nice overview here.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Although I am curious about pricing now.
What do you think?
I'm trying to figure out if this is a good deal, but I don't know what the product is yet, so I don't know. Sometimes I'll just glance at pricing to see if there's a free tier, and then I'll be like, oh, no free tier. Okay, I'll go back.
I should maybe mention the free trial on the pricing page, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I'm kind of like looking at facilitators, wondering what a facilitator is and why. If that's like an admin for a meeting.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm curious. So yeah, I definitely would want to go try it out. Create your account. Sign up with Google is what I would do.
Cool.
I didn't read that testimonial back there. At this point, I'm kind of plowing ahead to get in, so I don't know that I need a little bit more proof right there.
Yeah, I like the idea of testimonials to get them over the hump on these sign-up pages, and I find people just don't read them when I've done tests. It's interesting. Yeah, if you're not going to read it, you don't have to.
I might read it here, But once I'm in there, once I click try it for yourself, I'm ready to like plow ahead. So I'll sign up with Google. Click the purple play button to run a test meeting. Can only do that for help. Cool. I clicked I'm ready. I almost wanted to click the purple play button right there, but I didn't because it looked a little disabled, maybe.
That's just how you can only do so many colors of whimsical, it turns out.
Oh, that's right. This is whimsical. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, or the wireframes are made in whimsical. I'll show you later.
Oh, I gotta check out that wireframe feature. I use their sticky note feature for a little bit,
Yeah,
but mostly just the user journey stuff.
I use that too. I like it.
Okay, so now I'm logged into Shuffleboard. This looks like my dashboard or something.
Yeah.
It's like my home base. Looks like there's a sample board, feature kickoff board. I'm wondering if these are all boards. I'm guessing this is a board too.
Yeah. What's a board?
Maybe a board is, I feel like a board is the individual instance of a thing.
Mm. Oh man, you're killing it. This guy's done this before.
We got a whimsical bug here. Create your account is crossed out.
Interesting. That's on purpose because you already created your account.
Oh, this is the checklist.
Yeah.
This is like your onboarding checklist. Okay.
Was not clear that was what that was. Onboarding individual.
Well, that's just, you didn't do your visual design here yet. Really?
Probably, but maybe we need to do a little better.
Okay, so honestly, what I would do here, and maybe I should just do it, but I would jump into this sample feature kickoff, and I'm wondering why I was drawn there. I wouldn't watch this video because I think I'm not really a video watcher yet, but I'm so used to blogs being like a chronological timeline, so I feel like I want to see the thing that was posted first, and so I'm going to jump into this. Template, sprint retrospective. So that is, sprint retrospective is the title of the meeting that I ran. I wonder if it's open-ended, like if retrospective is a meeting type, or if all meeting templates are like, well, I guess they're templates, so maybe this is a retrospective template. Okay, what went well, what didn't go well? Add a step. Okay, so this is like, thinking of usertesting.com, where they define some steps for the user to take when they're testing a product, and then this is like, define some steps for your meeting. It's almost like the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, so what went well? So this is your template for the question. Your questions, what went well? Your answer format could be, oh, this is cool. This is kind of like how workshops are in real life, because it's like, I need a bunch of ideas for how we can make the user at ease when they're going through a flow, and then you, in real life, is what you do. Like, you want this certain outcome, what's going to get you there? Maybe it's crazy eights, maybe it's whatever. In this case, it's like maybe short text, maybe long answer. Okay. Answer format, number of answers, at least. But you can require a minimum amount of answers. So yeah, if you wanted to do crazy eights, you could be like at least 8 answers per person, no more than a certain amount of answers per person.
What are you thinking?
I was trying to think of why you'd want to limit the answers.
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense, does it?
Well, maybe it does, I just don't know yet.
I haven't thought
Time
about
limit, I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Time boxing is a pretty common thing, so that would be a cool thing to have. Auto advance to next question when time's up.
What are you thinking?
The thing running through my head right now is, I'm wondering if each user is on a dashboard or on a question here, and they add their 3 short text answers, and it auto advances to the next question. Do I proceed to the next question before everyone else? Or are we all working on the same thing at the same time? Oh wait, no, this is for this whole, this isn't for an individual user, I get it. This is only relevant if there's a time limit, though.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Okay. I'm the administrator right now, defining the script for the meeting. I got it. Okay. I would, yeah, step
Yeah,
would be
good.
done here. Cool. I get it. I think I get it.
There's always that moment when you're using a new piece of software. You want to have enough like onboarding context to tell them what to do, but not so much that it's just like you're hammering home. Like you have to kind of figure it out for yourself to some degree.
Yeah.
So I feel like right now I'm thinking, I want to give you a little bit more structure, like how it works. Like first this happens, then you do this, then this. But not so much that I spoil your moment here of, it's starting to click. I can see myself rather than having to watch 10 minutes of tutorials before I use this thing.
Yeah, totally. I like the pattern of like showing an example of one.
Yeah.
And this is really appealing to me because I get kind of excited about like getting things in their right place and like having this list on the left build in a nice way, and like I get to word everything just how I want it.
Yeah.
And I really like that. Yeah, so I'd probably
Cool.
just try and create my own at that point.
Okay.
You think of the different answer formats. That's cool. You
Yeah.
can do a video.
Well, in theory, yeah. What other answer formats do you think we need to have? Or which of these seem most and least relevant?
Picture is super relevant because unless you had like a freehand style sketching thing as part of an answer format, sketching is going to be super common.
Yeah.
Or it will be for me. So like what we do right now is we'll post those pictures in Slack, but then of course they get lost in the feed.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I'm assuming, is going to save all the meeting results in like a easy format to reference. So like, yeah, attaching pictures like that is great. Yeah, this is cool. Yeah. I think this would be really useful for me, actually. Not even bullshitting you.
Cool. That's good to hear. Well, what do you think you would do next? So you're seeing this, you're thinking, okay, this is useful. What? would happen?
I'd create a full template myself, and I'd really try and bend it to see if it suits my needs before inviting my team, but then I'd probably invite the team.
Yeah.
I just realized I'm following this, but I wasn't doing that because I was reading this. One thing I'm curious about is I kind of want to see what the results of a meeting are before I recommend this to my team. I guess
Yeah.
maybe I try it with my team, but in addition to maybe the samples of the prompts or the script setup, I'd want to see the sample output. And maybe I see that as a feature on the marketing site, but I want to see what the output is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of curious about meetings too. Oh, so maybe this is that. Cool, found it.
Maybe not perfectly obvious though.
Oh. I clicked on share. I don't know why. Just FYI. Yeah, I'm wondering why I would want to download it. Because ideally you can just share a link to this, like a
Yeah, why bother?
Whimsical has a really confusing pattern for sharing links. You notice that?
Yeah.
You
there's
click
some-
share, and then you could send someone that link, but then they'll be like, it doesn't work. And then you go back to share and you realize you have to make it public too.
Oh, really? No. That's annoying.
Yeah. So I wonder. This makes sense to me. Yeah.
Let's say you wanted to see what it was like when you were going to run a meeting. Are you curious like how it works when you?
Oh yeah, when you're running the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
How the cards are getting served up or whatever.
Yeah.
Try running a meeting. Oh,
You're Becky. In this
I'm
situation.
Becky. Your meeting started. Grab some friends and have them join you with this link. Okay.
Pretend it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I can drop this link to in the meeting channel in Slack or whatever, the project channel. And then people will end up here, I'm assuming. Right?
Yeah.
Except they won't see a next button. Only I see this next button.
I mean, my intention is for you to put this on a screen, like share it,
Oh.
share your screen. But I didn't really
I wonder if
give you any help with that.
yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a use case too where it's more of a survey. Like maybe you don't I mean I know the main
Yeah.
purpose is for running the meetings, but maybe it's like just like, hey everyone, can you please do this by the end of the day?
Yeah.
But there's other products for that, I guess, too.
Well, I was wondering because there are surveys, but they're not. I'm trying to figure out like to what degree is this a live thing, like where
Yeah.
you're running it live in meetings, and to what degree is it just a collecting unstructured feedback from lots of people and sorting it thing? Is it a super survey or is it like a better live meeting running tool, and how do I weight that? You know?
Yeah. What I would want is the meeting tool because,
Yeah.
like we talked about, I think it would really help with
Yeah.
the pressure of like having all the right things ready. I'm really good at prep. That's why I like to prep. I get excited by like prepping a nice script for this stuff. So, what went well in this sprint? Okay, so this is like a retrospective example. So like I'd be showing this on Hangouts,
Yeah.
and then what went well in this sprint. So then I'd be asking people to. So I guess I'm running this meeting. I'm Becky. What are the other people? How are they contributing?
Yeah, it's really confusing. I mean, it's not an obvious thing to see here. You can see it in the prototype, but I'm wondering. I mean, this is just this is sort of breaking the wall a little bit, but
Yeah.
like maybe I should have you invited. Like you should get an email on your phone to join your own meeting so you can see both sides or something.
Oh.
Because
So
they
they're
don't
not-
even know what it is yet.
So the other people in the meeting aren't seeing this screen.
The idea is that they would see this on like a big screen if you're all co-located, or if
Mhm.
you're in Hangouts, you'll see this in your Hangouts. But I'll show you how it works. If you just click that, you'll get the view of somebody who's joining the meeting.
Oh, I see. What I assumed was that I'm already here. Like this is that link, and I'm already here.
Right,
So
yeah.
I'd want to paste this in the Slack, but I don't need to go there because I'm
Yeah.
in the thing. But
Okay.
I see what you're saying. Cool. So this is
You can walk through this just if you're curious.
Jen's meeting. Cool. Okay, so on mobile. Oh, this is cool. So I'll be projecting the thing, and that's where the results are coming in. But the users I shared the link with this is the input portion.
Yeah, it's a
So once the
separate thing.
meeting starts, yeah, that's cool.
I think I have to do a little more communication around like just who's going to be seeing what during these meetings. I think it's a little unclear. It's not all the same screen. That's something I haven't really thought about. I just sort of started taking that for granted.
Mm-hmm. So that makes sense.
You can arrow through back to go back, I think, if you want. Or maybe not.
Can I go this way?
Here, I can just get you to where you are. Pretend you didn't see nothing. So there's a prompt.
So I'm like, all right. So the first question is, what went well in the sprint? I kind of don't want to hit next here
Yeah.
because I want, like, I'm waiting here for results to come in, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if I had done a better prototype, I would make it so this was empty at first, and then these would pop up as they come in.
Oh, like auto advanced.
And maybe the timer should show too, right? Like the next is maybe
If it's a time.
by default, maybe it should be a timed thing or something.
Yeah. Maybe if it's not timed, if like you do these meetings all the time and you're used to seeing timed screens, you might want an
Yeah.
indication if it's not timed. So it's like says open.
Open. Totally.
Okay, so the results are in. So it looks like 2 people Right. Someone submitted great team communication. Someone submitted shipped on time. Oh, Chris submitted that. I submitted. Jason submitted this. And then you can like this. So once the results are submitted on mobile, the person who contributed, they'll see these on their mobile phone too,
Yeah.
or on their. Okay.
I think the video might help a little bit. Some onboarding stuff might help, but
Yeah, totally.
it's. I think if you're doing a usability test, you want to have the product ready to go, right? But if you're doing one of these early product tests, I think it's kind of like I'm just sending out a bunch of things that I think has a bunch of holes in it, you know, and I'm seeing the holes that you find and the holes that you don't just totally skip over,
Yeah.
so I know where to fill in the blanks a little bit.
Totally. Cool. So I can end the meeting, and now this thing shows up on my list here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, let's imagine you get an email. I don't have the email in here. Oh, maybe I do. Let's see. Let's say that you get an email that is this. Read through this for me.
Hey Becky, congrats on running your first shuffleboard meeting. I'd love to hear how it went for you. Short questionnaire. You asked 5 questions, got 48 responses in 55 minutes. Here's a summary of the responses, sorted by popularity. PDF attached. Cool. So the liking is kind of like putting your dots on the
Dot voting.
dot voting.
Yeah.
That's cool. Karl Lagerfeld. Why do I know that?
He's that fashion designer who runs like, I forget.
Oh yeah. I was
really-
just reading about him. Did he just die?
Oh, did he? Maybe.
I don't know.
I've already made like 3 jokes on these videos about how I use Karl Lagerfeld because I always thought it sounded like a good farmer name.
Is he a really old guy like Chanel?
Yeah, I think
I
it's
think he
Chanel.
just died.
Oh, really? I just watched the doc about him.
I think-
I'm making jokes about Karl Lagerfeld on video, and he's just.
Maybe I'm making that up. I just know he was in the New York Times recently. Cool. Yeah, again, I think I'm going to treat my shuffleboard login as home base. I don't know that I want the PDF, but I guess that varies for everyone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do like this summary though, so if there's no way to see this summary in the app, it makes sense to get this
Yeah,
summary
totally.
email. Or a way to get that PDF from the app too. This is cool though. I like it. It's like training wheels for a good meeting. Or maybe not training wheels, but like when you go bowling and the bumpers are in the gutters.
That's a
In case
good
you need
analogy.
any good marketing copy here. Gutter bumpers.
Gutter
Shuffleboard. Okay. Cool.
Cool. I think we're done. Overall impressions.
I'm not just joking, but like it would, or I'm not joking.
Yeah.
It would be useful for me to use this. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Good. Well, I'm sure I have more questions for you. We're probably pushing an hour total time, so I'll try to wrap up soon. Maybe we'll see you back with some follow-up questions. But I mean, overall, I feel like the product idea has been pretty validated. It went in a couple different directions in terms of like emphasis on designers running meetings that I had not put in, maybe because I was trying not to design for myself too much.
Mhm.
But I want to emphasize that a little bit more. At the usability level, there's definitely a fair number of bumps I want to just iron out, and I think I have a good idea of what I want to go through and fix that. Design-wise, there's a little bit, but we didn't get too much in design, but it's so high or low fidelity that I don't think there's a ton to do there, and there's like no branding at all. So we didn't really have much of a design discussion, but I think that actually makes a lot of sense considering. I have a bunch of notes here. I'll try in the full instance of transparency. Here's all my terrible scribbles. This, and this. Now, these notes suck. I don't know if they'll even be useful. But I think, one, it's on video, so I can go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
And 2, I wanted to make sure I was present and actually paying attention to you the best I could. So really the notes are just sometimes for this, like, it's not as, just, you could just record it, you have a record of it. I'd rather take notes. Most of these notes were things that I wanted to just jot down, so if I lost the train of thought in the interview, I could go back to something that I wanted to revisit. I think having gone through this process, even without rewatching this or any of the notes, as I go back and work on new wireframes and stuff, there's just things I'm gonna instantly know that I need to fix. You know, just having once somebody says something, it's like you can't get it out of your brain.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of things I know I'm gonna want to work on. This isn't all stuff I'd necessarily share with the test subject. Just talking out loud about what I'm thinking, my process in these videos.
Yeah.
Alright.
Good stuff always comes out of these. Sometimes it's awkward to show that early stuff, but like, you just get such good, clear takeaways so early on, right? Yeah.
It's just too good to not do. Especially if you know, like, I don't think you want to just test with people in tech in the startup scene because it just is an echo chamber, you know?
Yeah.
But if you can find somebody like Jason in the early days who can give you feedback, especially who's in that target market, who also has some tech sensibility and has had to facilitate these tests before, you can just get a lot more. Like you said, sometimes a user test where somebody was just really talking out loud is just mind-blowingly good, like this. And sometimes you really have to push people to get insights, and that can be harder for a product, for early product validation. Better for more of like a usability
Yeah.
view. I'm hungry. I always get hungry at the end of these.
Oh, it's 2:00.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Really?
Okay, this is beyond useful, valuable. I'm so happy I did this.
Good.
We were just up here for like a camping weekend to see Traverse City, and it just worked out that I could do this. So this is kind of amazing.
Made it productive.
Yeah. Do you ever like work on a project and think like I should do usability tests, and then you're working on it and you think I don't really need to do one?
All the time.
Yeah. And so I was thinking that for this. Like,
I'm
I was
actually
really
pretty
thinking-
surprised you're doing it because like you're doing your own thing. You don't have a team to report to, but you're putting your trust in the process, which is the thing to do for sure.
There's two reasons I did this. One, I happened to be up here and your name is in the app, so I figured I'm crazy if I don't. And two, I'm on video, so I have to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
It's so hard to actually get around to doing these sometimes. I often will do it just because we know it's necessary, and I'm always so thankful I did.
Yeah, same here every time.
It's so important.
Yeah, even because I just did some of these recently, and it's like I did like a mobile test, and like there were parts of the prototype that weren't clickable, and part of me just makes me just like, why am I doing this? But even then, it's like you get so many takeaways in other areas.
Yeah. And this was like, what, an hour? I guess we had to like get some tea and come here and set it up. But for the amount of time you spend, it's so valuable.
Yeah, especially cool when it's a product that would be actually relevant to me. So always down.
Well, I'm going to take all this, let it sink in for a little bit. I think next steps are definitely make some improvements on these wireframes, lo-fi protos based off what we talked about. And eventually we're going to get into writing some code and making this thing a real thing. So stay tuned. I'd love to have you come back sometime.
Love to.
Come back and join us on the Corin O'Brien Show. Have to have you back. All right, we're done.
Bye, YouTube.
Bye, you.